With Amazon announcing that they no longer want to develop content for New World, and seemingly with no publisher or developer interested in buying the game or even a private server kicking open, I asked you guys, what else are you interested in? And one game that I have been hearing just endless amounts for the past couple weeks now is Where Winds Meet. The game is set to have a free-to-play launch on PC and PS5 on Friday the 14th of November, with Xbox coming about 6 months later. However, you can play the game right now on the Chinese servers, which is what I'm doing here. This is not a sponsored video. What I wanted it to be was like a comprehensive review explaining everything, because it's a open world, RPG, action combat, single player, multiplayer, MMO. It's like so many different things in this game. And after spending about 10 hours, I realized there's no way I'm going to be able to do like a full in-depth explain how everything works. I'm going to need to play for weeks and weeks and weeks. So instead, this is going to function more as a first impressions and a brief explainer to explain everything that I know so far about the game. As always, if you're interested in any particular section, provided I know something about it, you'll be able to scrub along in the video and find out the good, the bad, and just the unknown when it comes to Where Winds Meet. Let's start off first by explaining what exactly Where Winds Meet is, or at least to the best of my ability. This game is pretty crazy. So you will have character creation like you would get in an MMO. It is very detailed. You can upload a picture of yourself. You can even upload a sound of your voice to make your character sound like you. And then from there, once you enter the world, you'll just be playing in a single player environment. It will just be you, although you can invite friends into your lobby from the get-go, to my understanding. However, once you hit level 10, which doesn't take very long at all, you're just following the main storyline or doing side quests, you will have the option to enter online mode. Now, in the Chinese version of the client, it's just up here, but you can also get to it from this menu hell, but we'll just go to this button up here, and we have single player and then we have multiplayer mode. So if I go here and we hit join multiplayer mode, basically we'll now be teleported into a village with a ton of other players, and here we are. Now we're suddenly in an MMO. We're in the same version of the map, except I've been teleported from over here to here, and we have a bunch of other players nearby. A lot of them just stand AFK. I don't know. I guess that is, now that I think about it, that's what we always did in New World as well, just stand AFK in town. But you can interact with the players. You can add them as a friend. You can inspect their profile and stuff. So I think it's this one here. You can take a look at their gear and what they have. I think you can even copy their build and stuff. But yeah, a lot of MMO elements. Other testaments to being it a multiplayer game is somewhere in these menus. I think it's this one. And then we go here. And then we go to this one. These are PvP game modes here. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit later on. There are a lot of menus, and there are also some concerns that I see in here as well. But first, I just wanted to explain, what the game is. So it's single player up to a point. Once you get to level 10, you do have the option to go into multiplayer, or you can just stay single player the whole time if you want. There are elements where people can come and crash your world effectively. So there is a wanted level in this game, kind of like you would get in Grand Theft Auto, where if you kill a lot of NPCs and steal a lot of stuff, you can get a wanted level, and then that wanted level will put a bounty on your head, and other players can come and claim that bounty by killing you. So if you're bad in your single player world, you can have other players invade your world and come and attack you. And vice versa, you can go into the multiplayer world, find those bounties, and then invade other players' single worlds and attack them as well. Outside of PvP, there is also group dungeons. I did this co-op fort attack thing, so I have this other guy. We just killed a bunch of bosses and got some chests at the end of it. I'm not far enough in the level, or in the game rather, to talk about what happens at max level, but I know there are raids as well, 5-player dungeons. You do have tank damage and healer in this game as well, so the healing weapon in this game, or one of the healing weapons, is the fan, and I guess it's briefly worth mentioning that as well. So if we go here, we can take a look at all the different weapons in the game. Some weapons have multiple skill trees. So if you remember in New World, for example, you would have the fire staff, you'd have the left-hand side skill tree and the right-hand side skill tree, kind of like that, but each one is its own independent weapon. So we have the strategic sword, which is what I'm currently using right now. But then we also have the nameless sword, which is what you start off with, and they have different abilities. In terms of abilities, there's not that many to press. You have a Q ability, which I think, again, this is compatible with controller. We've got this ability here as well. I have a default sort of just spam attack like this. I've got my tab ability to weapon swap. We do have a block as well. There is a parry, which is just like a quick block. And then obviously we can switch between the two different weapons. Everybody gets a bow by default. Bow is not its own dedicated weapon, I'm afraid. It is just like a sort of utility weapon that everybody gets access to. But yeah, 2 weapons, each one with, I'm guessing, yeah, we have 3 abilities. Yeah, each one with 3 abilities. So kind of feeling a bit New Worldy there. But then you also have these additional abilities as well, like your special powers. So I've got this Tai Chi ability. I've got this other one where I can go invisible. I've got another one where I can target somebody's like pressure points, and is this gonna get me in trouble? No, okay. I've got a one that breaks me out of stealth, and then I have another ability that I can't use where I hold a goose and it shouts at somebody and it stuns them, but I don't have the energy to use that, and I can't figure out how to get the energy, but there's a goose ability. So yeah, you've got your special powers, you have your 2 weapons, each weapon has 3 abilities, and then there's a lot of build customization in that as well. There is a lot going on in this game, as you can tell, but I briefly wanted to explain just, what it is. So the TLDR, single player game with a story. Doing the story levels up your character. There are levels in this game. I think the level cap is somewhere around 90 right now, at least on the Chinese version. Once you get to level 10, you can go into multiplayer mode. You can group up with other players, you can do chest runs, you can just chill in the open world, you can explore, but the storyline is pretty much all done in the single player mode, and it is very important to do for progress. However, like I say, in single player mode, you still can invite people in to play co-op with you as well. Now, before we jump into my gripes with the game, I first want to talk about what this game does well. Number 1 for me is the combat. The combat feels really, really good. It looks clean, the animations are very well done, the movement and the pacing, it is just a very nice game to play. It feels good. Now, this is from the perspective of mainly single player. I will say that when I played multiplayer, I'm gonna give the game an excuse because I'm from the United Kingdom, I'm from England, and I am playing on the Chinese server, so I assume I was playing with a very high ping. And yeah, combat doesn't feel good on a high ping, but on low ping or no ping when we're playing single player, combat feels amazing. I'm hoping that this will be the case that when we play on European servers, when you play the multiplayer mode with low ping, it would still be true. But yeah, single player anyway, combat feels really, really good. The second thing I want to say is the game looks incredible. Graphics wise, I think we're on max right now. I'm not entirely sure because yeah, just trying to navigate through this and figure out what everything means. I do have this little translation tool, which I've been using from time to time, but it doesn't work too well. But I believe this is with max graphics. I'm pretty sure. I'll have to double check with you guys. But it does, even if this is not max graphics, the game does look incredibly good. It's a 150 gigabyte download, at least it was for me. I think there's even a version above that with higher resolution textures. But yeah, aesthetically, this game looks incredible, and it's a lot of fun to just be in the open world and do stuff. You can sort of wall run up trees, up hills. You get these flying abilities. You can dash around. There's a triple jump. We can smash into the ground. We can block, parry. Game just feels super clean to play. For a free-to-play game of this quality, it feels amazing. I know it sounds like I'm glazing the game a lot here, but it's got to be said. I mean, this is just, it looks really good. Hopefully it's translating the same after like my recording compression and YouTube compression, but visually, aesthetically, and also from an immersive standpoint, just being in the open world feels really good. There's a lot of stuff to do. Pretty much everywhere you go, there's gatherables, there's collectibles, there's NPCs to interact with. At one point, I went into a village, I turned into a dog and played some Chinese dominoes game. And then another point, I got drunk with a villager and we were chucking arrows into a pot. The game just feels alive. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, and like I say, the combat is absolutely top tier. Really, really good. If it feels the same in multiplayer, then this game is definitely, like, it's got its core gameplay just nailed down in terms of how it feels to play. Another big benefit, obviously, with Where Winds Meet is it's free to play. You don't need to spend any money for it. We're going to get onto the monetization a little bit later on because I have some slight concerns there. They have said time and time again, there's no pay to win. I've been taking a look through the store. No obvious evidence of pay to win, but again, we'll leave that for either the bad or the unknown, the other sections we're going to have in this video. It's also cross-platform and cross-progression as well. So if you're playing on your PS5 and then you want to play on the PC, or you're playing on PC, you want to play on PS5, you can play with the same account, and we do share the same servers. So that's also a big win there as well from the social standpoint. Now we're going to talk about the bad with Where Winds Meet. Now, this is obviously subject to personal opinion. This is just stuff that I personally don't enjoy in games, and I do feel like a lot of the problems that Where Winds Meet have, it's just what seems to happen with Eastern games development and Eastern MMOs. But the first one is the sheer amount of menus. There is an unbelievable amount of menus in this game. Now, because it's already been out for a year in China, it might be that it's nowhere near as bad when we get the Western release at the end of this week. But take, for example, we click on this bird icon here, and then we've got menu, menu, menu. Each one has a ton of different like sub-menus within it as well. Obviously, it doesn't help that it's all in Chinese because I don't really know what most of it means. But just, it is staggering the sheer amount of stuff that you can click through and go through in this game. We go to this one up here. These are the shops, I think, but then there's also like 7 different types of shop as well. And then again, we have different menus within the menus as well. So yeah, it is just gonna, like, from what I can tell, it is gonna be an absolute nightmare to navigate this game initially. You have to sort of memorize, right? If I want to go do PvP, I have to click on the bird icon. Then I have to click on this one up here. No, that's the shop. Then I click on this guy. And then, yeah, okay, there we go. We got there. And then we have these different PvP modes. And probably after I click this button, there'll be another menu there as well. But just, like I say, I don't know if there's a cleaner way that they could have done it. I get it, because the game just has a ton of content. But it is almost overwhelming how much different stuff there is to click on over here. Also, another gripe of mine, and I know this is starting to sound like old man shouts at cloud, but you have all those little red dot icons, these things up here that let you know that there's something you haven't claimed or whatever. So I go down here, and then there's a bunch of stuff I can claim, so I need to hit that one, and then I need to hit that one, and then I need to say yes, I do want to take that stuff, and I got 10 of whatever that is. And then we can go down to this next one. I've got some more stuff I can claim over here as well, like so. And then, yep, claim red dot over there. And then I'm not even sure what I can claim in this one. Oh, I've entered building mode by the looks of it. Okay, that's pretty cool. I wasn't sure how to build a house. As you guys get the idea, though. Again, this is almost certainly, or a huge part of this is because it's all in Chinese, so it just adds an extra level of complication to it. But I do think, in my opinion, there are just a bit too much in the way of like menus and things to click through to find where you want to go to. I'm also noticing a trope that you see in a lot of games of this style, where there are a lot of different types of currencies, like lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different types of currencies, which I also just think is too much. There's too much bloat in that regard as well, especially since the game isn't even that old yet to have, I don't know, what has it been? At least 15 different types of currencies that I've been able to track so far in just 10 hours of playing is pretty ridiculous. Another big concern I have, and this might be unfounded, but it is the time gating within PvP. Now, I played another Chinese MMO in the past, and they're not all going to be the same. You know, it's worth mentioning. I could just be way off the ball here, so big asterisk on this one. Might be nothing of a concern at all. But the PvP arena, from what I can tell, you can only enter into the 1v1 game mode between certain hours of the day. It was the same when I played another game that was developed in China. It was called Terraceland, where the arena was only open between like 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. and then it was open later on in the day from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I think this is because some sort of law or mandate within China where certain game modes or certain like types of gaming are only allowed to be available between certain hours. Whether this will translate over into the Western version, I really hope not, because that was one of the things that sucked so much about Terraceland. I did actually enjoy PvP in that game quite a lot, but the fact that you could only PvP at certain hours, and if you were just not available then, was a real big bummer. So fingers crossed what I'm seeing here. First of all, if I'm translating it correctly, I'm not entirely sure. But second of all, whether this only applies to the Chinese version, I don't know, but there is a big concern there from what I've seen in other Chinese MMOs. Another mechanic to talk about while we're in the screen as well is this up here. This is your favor or energy. I can't remember the exact term for it, but it is a limited resource that you spend to unlock chests. So when you do a dungeon, you'll get a chest at the end of the dungeon, and you can use your energy to get loot from the chest. But it once you've used it all, that's it. There are certain things you can acquire by playing the game which replenish your energy, and as you level up you'll get more of it. But it is a limited resource, and I saw this mechanic a lot in Throne and Liberty. Again, it's a very common trope within Eastern MMOs where you have a certain amount of currency that you can do a certain amount of crafting with per day, or you can only loot a certain amount of chests per day. It feels very mobile, or it feels very Eastern MMO, but that is present in this game as well. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't know, there's obviously going to be some solution to stop you just grinding a dungeon over and over and over again, but it is worth noting that that is a mechanic in the game as well. Finally, last gripe, and it, you know, this is just a bit of a silly one, but as far as I'm aware, you can't chop down trees in this game, which, you know, as a New World player, just being able to go in and chop down a tree, it is like a rite of passage for us. There is fishing. You can fish if you want. I got my fishing rod here, except I'm not at a body of water, but yeah, no tree chopping as far as I've come across in the 10 hours I've been playing. So we've talked about the good, we've talked about the bad. For the final section of this first impressions or review or whatever the heck I'm going to call this, I want to talk about the unknown when it comes to Where Winds Meet. These are things that I think are very important, but I personally don't know enough about them, and I haven't been able to find too much information out there on the internet about these sections so far. So the first one is PvP balancing. When it comes to PvP, the only game mode that I've played so far was a Battle Royale game mode, which obviously has balancing because everybody starts off with nothing. But when it comes to the 1v1 or the 5v5 or the 30 versus 30, I'm not sure how exactly they're going to get around matchmaking in terms of like making sure each team has a healer. I'm not sure how like gear and progression will play into this, whether it'll put you against another newbie account, like somebody who's brand new to the game that has only got 10 hours in, or if it'll put you against somebody who's stacked and has a ton of gear. I don't really know how matchmaking and PvP balancing works in this game, but I do think it is going to be important. PvP, likely, with the way the combat feels in this game, is going to be something that a lot of people will really, really enjoy, but whether there's any balancing whatsoever, or if it just you know, who's got the most progressed account wins, or at least has an advantage, I'm not entirely sure. Now, I'm aware that I'm coming at this from a position of being a bit hypocritical because I'm somebody who played a lot of New World, and in New World, your gear made a huge difference when it came to playing Outpost Rush and stuff like that, but I did always think that it should have been the developers trying to balance it out to make sure that like skilled or geared players went against other skilled or geared players whenever possible if the queue would allow it. So whether this game facilitates that, I don't know, but I would like to know. Another big question I have for Where Winds Meet is the importance of the multiplayer MMO mode. So far, when I'm playing the game, it feels like I'm encouraged to just play single player as much as possible. Now, this is probably because I'm in the progression part of the game, but in terms of doing the main story quest, in terms of doing side quests, in terms of unlocking abilities and everything, it feels like it always pushes me to do it in the single player mode. If I go into multiplayer mode and then start doing quests, it says, hey, you need to go back to the single player mode to do that. So how much progression you can actually make in the MMO mode seems to be quite limited, at least early on. Again, this might change in a little bit, but it is a big question as to the benefit of playing in the MMO mode. Is it purely just for fun, or can I use that for progression as well? That's something that I don't really fully understand yet, but I do think it is important because I would personally like to play this as more of an MMO than a single player game, but whether Where Winds Meet truly allows you to do that in terms of character progression, I don't know. Again, if you guys do happen to know, if you're also very up to date in this game, let me know in the comments down below. I'm sure a bunch of other people would be keen to hear that out as well, but that is one concern that I have in terms of the viability of the MMO mode for character progression. Finally, I want to talk about the end game in Where Winds Meet. What do we do when we hit max level? Again, I believe, at least on this server, the max level is 90, 91 or something like that. I know there's raids, I know there's PvP, we've talked about it, I know there's dungeons, but I'm very curious as to what the day-to-day or week-to-week login and do sort of content is. If I take a look at a game that is semi-similar, like Dune Awakening, where you have the single-player mode and then you go and do the multiplayer sort of endgame stuff, that game just kind of died off. As soon as you were done progressing and finishing the main storyline and you built your base, all of the sort of magic went away. And even with Once Human, I feel like that was just very much a seasonal format, which relied on wipes and resets to keep it going. I'm very curious as to see what like the long-term end game replayability is in Where Winds Meet. I know there are raids, again, I know there is like progression in the chests and stuff, but I think for the game to have a big, large, sustained player base that stays with the game over time, the end game does need to be pretty solid, and I'm just not entirely sure what it is yet, funny enough, because I've only played 10 hours. So, friends, I think that's everything I have to say about my limited amount of playtime with Where Winds Meet. For what it's worth, I do very much intend to play more of this game. If you guys have found any part of this video interesting, or just any sort of looking that you've been doing at Where Winds Meet has interested you, I'd highly recommend checking it out. Again, it is free to play after all. We didn't really cover much of like whether it's pay to win or not, but again, as far as I can tell, and it is difficult because everything's in Chinese, but they are being genuine about there being no pay to win. I can't really see any evidence of it. The only thing that even like sort of registers on the scale is the fact that the paid version of the Battle Pass does have some currency that you can use to upgrade your gear, but you get this currency in the game fairly frequently. We also had the same system in New World. New World had a free and paid version of its Season Pass, and on the paid version of the Season Pass, there was a limited amount of currency that you could also use to upgrade stuff like Weapon Matrix and Armor Matrix. So if New World, which wasn't really considered to be pay to win, gets a pass, then I guess so far this game does get a pass as well. It does just seem to be that you spend money on cosmetics. A lot of money. There is a lot of cosmetics, like totally flipped. The store in this game is crazy. There is so much going on, and they do have a gacha system where you can randomly pull to get super exclusive skins. But it is ultimately all cosmetic rather than, you know, actual spending money to make your character stronger. But to bring it back around, again, it is free. The gameplay is super fun. Movement clean. Combat feels rewarding. Fast-paced. And the social elements in the multiplayer mode look like they're going to be pretty cool as well. Whether it's going to be a game that we play super long term, that remains to be seen, but I do think it's a fun one. I definitely would mark it down here on a calendar. One other piece of information I want to share with you guys, there is going to be a pre-download on the 12th of November. If you don't have the fastest internet speeds, I would highly recommend taking advantage of that, because again, it's about 150 gigabytes in size if you want to get the more, you know, high tech, what's the word, like high, you guys know what I mean, the textures that look good. There's a word that's not coming to my head right now. But with that being said, if you want more information on Where Winds Meet, if I enjoy this game, I do plan to sort of share some builds. So I've been playing around with a pretty cool sword and fan build that we've been using for solo, and it's been pretty strong. So if you want a strong solo build, or you want any other content on Where Winds Meet, hit that subscribe button. We potentially will have some videos coming out in the near future. Let me know what your thoughts are about this game in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.